Bonjour, everybody. Hello. Uh, Happy heat wave to those who celebrate one more time. Did I just get a double notification from Discord saying that my stream started? I don't know. Anyway, hello everybody. Hello lolcat swag, blurry square codex, unrelated name. I'm assuming, or hello GPT. I don't know. HD0 and Dulce says, when I finish my list, will you try it? Of course I will. Although, I am telling you, right away, YouTube chat does not work well with links, so you will need to find an alternative way of getting it to me. Twitch chat, email, Discord, all available. Hello, Melephus. All right, everybody. Here's the thing. It is now 3 p.m. At 1 p.m. today, my operating system was the most unstable it has been in a while. I was doing surgery on the damn grape. I was still finishing some stuff in the scheduler. I mentioned yesterday that I was done fully porting my scheduler from working with processes to working with threads. There were, in fact, a couple of things. Well, there was a bug that was still happening with the file system in user space, which, by the way, I've officially decided to call USFS. The United States file system. So as I was fixing that, literally one line of code stood between me and utter chaos. And that line of code was not there, so we had utter chaos. So really one line of code stood between the operating system and stability, I guess. But we should be fine now. We should be completely fine, I believe. The thing that was happening is that the terminal has a file system in user space, and when the file browser tried to access it, at some point it froze. But now it seems to be doing it fine. There's term history. Test, 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 test. There's always going to be, in that file system, always going to be a folder called test. So if you go inside it, there's always going to be a folder called test. So if you go inside it, there's always going to be a folder called test. So if you go inside... I'm done. Yeah. So, seems to be fine now. Seems to be working. And yesterday there was a panic happening. Mind you, it took me literally like... Here's the thing. Last night, I was not going to work on that panic. I was going to work on it this morning to fix it. And yet, I was at my computer, ready to go to bed. And I was looking at the code that causes that, because I had selected it, but I was like, nah, I'm gonna do this tomorrow. And yet I looked at the issue and I was like, there it is. So I fixed it. Ish. This to do is for more improvements that I need to make on that part. But it does work. I did fix it. That panic doesn't happen anymore. And the thing that I was doing yesterday is you could open and, well, not open and close Windows. You could already open Windows. Now you can close Windows with a little button. Although this cursor in particular is off center. So it's actually at the top left. A part that is not rendered at all is where the actual cursor is. Like the pointer is here. So you have to be a little bit careful with that, but besides that, yeah, it works. All right. So we're in a pretty good place. We're in a pretty good place, and there were two things that I wanted to do in the desktop environment. One of which I said I was going to do yesterday, but I decided...
Merefas // subscribed to your channel for 1 month.
Melefas, thank you for the subscription. You stayed true to your word. Nice, man. Thank you. Stream Elements, you're super late, but yes, Malefas just subscribed. And Malefas is actually the person who suggested how to do this part, which is a thought that I had, but I ended up dismissing it before I even really thought about it. But Malefas bringing it up made me think about it and like it, which is this menu, which in my system is always going to go in this top bar here. Regardless of where your window is, the menu is always going to go here. Will be powered by the file system. So these are folders. Any subsections of the menu are also folders. Any submenus, that is, are also folders. And then there's files. And the ones that you click on are activated through the file system. You wrote the kernel from scratch? I wrote the kernel from scratch, yes. Which is why the scheduler was super broken, because that's just... I've been refactoring it. We didn't have multi-threading until recently, so the scheduler used to schedule processes. Now it schedules threads, so a lot of things that had to be changed. The last of which now is this process can run function, which is what this to do is about that I mentioned before. It kind of just checks if the process is capable of running. It's not wrong. I actually have the to-do duplicate because I have it here and outside of that function. It's not wrong, but it should check if the thread can run. Although it already does that. It already does that, I think. So maybe it's actually okay. Maybe it's actually okay. It just checks if the process can run. Yeah, you know what? This is actually correct. This is actually correct. Look at that. I haven't written a single line of code and I've just gotten rid of 2 to-dos. I'm a genius. I'm a fucking programming genius. I don't know what to tell you, man. You're witnessing history right now. I am fixing stuff without even writing any lines of code. Admire it while I drink coffee. Okay. So, yeah, it's looking like my scheduler is ready, perhaps. Looking good. Any specific books you have read on OS development or just learned over time? As I tend to say, I don't really believe in reading books for this stuff. The only book I've ever even considered is the Lisp book. And even then, it's mostly for the aesthetics of the book. I wouldn't really care to read it all that much. Because... No. No. I just learned over time. I just learned by doing. I think that's the best way to learn. Which is also why, for example, I failed my operating systems class in college, and now I'm doing this shit. It's definitely not because I didn't study. It's both, actually. Not joking, the way that I learn is by doing things, so maybe I wouldn't be the best surgeon. Okay, maybe that's not exactly my the right thing that I should be studying, but it does mean that, you know, in a theoretical class on operating systems where all you do is dump concepts onto me to learn and teach me stuff in very abstract ways, I'm not going to be doing amazing. And yet, if I make an OS, I will learn those concepts in a much better way. So, jokes aside, yeah. Also, I didn't study because it was hard to study because that's just not how I learned. I'd love to see you do some microcontroller stuff at some point. You know, I was considering. I have the inkling of an idea. It literally like today or last night, I don't remember. So let's leave it at that until I develop it more. Okay. Okay. So today I have, again, two options to work on. The first one is menus, which will be done through the file system. The second one is working on kind of window metadata to call it. I don't know what else to call it, but at the very least, window names and window minimum maximum size for resizing, so we can work on that. I love books, TBH. I don't really. I don't know. Like, for example, I have this book here that my dad got me. This is a book that he had from the IBM 360. This book is ancient. Can't really see the yellowing of the pages. This book is ancient. I'm reading it because it's interesting. Though I don't really have any reason to do anything with it, so it's not like I'm gonna read the whole thing. I've read the basics, and I'm like, that's interesting. But I don't really have much incentive to continue reading the rest of it, because I'm never gonna program for this thing. I've already learned the basics of how it works, or seen the way that of how it works, and it's okay. Although, of course, fiction books I prefer. Just like technical books is what I'm talking about. Fiction books I like. And even like other non-fiction books, but just not technical books. I can like those as well. X11 server? No, since everything is from scratch, we don't follow any of that convention. No POSIX, no X11, no Linux kernel, no... none of that EWI stuff. I have a book that makes you hallucinate and another one that hates me. Does the other one hate you because the first one is making you hallucinate by any chance? Is that a thing? And Unix in a nutshell, that's the one that hates you. I know that. Winston Horn Lisp and SICP, which is I know which book it is, I just don't remember what it stands for. Structure Interpretation of Computer Programs. That's what it is. It is known as the wizard book in hacker culture. This is, by the way, like this sentence, as well as the cover, the main reason I want this book. But it's probably gonna go the way of this IBM thing, which, by the way, I was asking my dad to give it to me the first chance he got. I'm probably just gonna skim through it and then be like, okay, cool. It's a collection now. It's part of my collection. They're all separate books? Okay, but the Unix in a nutshell hates you as well, okay? Just so you know. I don't know, maybe, who knows, maybe I'm gonna buy this book and I'm gonna be like, actually, you know what, there is, I do like technical books now. I don't know. I guess I'll see. I couldn't find it on Amazon and I am not even gonna bother trying to find it in a physical bookstore, 'cause also not exactly the kind of thing I want to read in Spanish. Interpretación y estructura de programas de ordenador. Well, it would be estructura, interpretación de programas de ordenador. So it would be CIPO, maybe. It would be CIPO, not SICP. Common Lisp, a gentle introduction to symbolic computation. I don't need a gentle introduction. I dived right in and I'm good with that. Hello, Ivana. Okay. This is genuinely the only one I've ever considered, and I might want a cat. But you know what sucks? JavaScript version. To go from the best interpreted language to the worst is such a glow down. Oh my god. Look at that. It doesn't even want to zoom into it. Fuck right off. Doesn't even want to zoom in properly. Look at that. Look how they massacred my boy. Look how they massacred my boy. This is awful. I figured I could get it probably PDF, but like, I don't know. I want the physical. Also, reading books on PDF was fine when I was commuting, but now I don't really want to do it again, unless I really need to. It was cool for commuting because I could just be like, okay, I want to read. I'm gonna be in the subway for like an hour. Just pull out my phone and start reading. But otherwise, not really. Okay, it's very, very hot in here. Anyhow. So yeah, we have both the menu thing that I can build and stuff like window titles, window minimum, maximum size, all of that stuff. However, both of these have somewhat of a common component. I don't want to have a syscall to talk to. Thank you for waiting. I don't want to have a syscall to set menus. I don't want to have a syscall to set window titles, even though the window system is part of the system, so you talk to it through syscalls. There is an alternative, talking to it through the file system. That is the way that I want to do it. Both of these things are not critical operations. They're operations that you do once during setup. So if they take a little bit longer, because the file system does have a tiny bit of overhead, not like I've ever measured, but I know it has a tiny bit of overhead because there's more moving components than just a direct path to what you want to do, which is the syscall. Well, security checks and then a direct path to what you want to do. That little bit of overhead that definitely exists isn't really important because you're not going to be setting the name of your window every frame. If you're doing that, you're probably doing it wrong. You're not going to be deciding how much your window can be resized by every frame. If you're doing that, you're probably doing it wrong. Although you can do it more than once. I was thinking about it, but for example, there's this process, this demo process here. When it starts, it just gives you this text. There's no reason why this window cannot be resized at all. It could be resized at any point to any size you want. However, if I run demo number 1, we have an image and it resizes the window itself to fit the image, a little bit of a border and nothing else. It doesn't really do anything besides that. By the way, it glitches a little bit. But it sets a limitation. You're not allowed to resize the window after this point because the image is that size and that's the size of the image that it's going to be loading. So this is an example of once the window is already loaded, there's different constraints. Even then, it's not a super common thing, but even then, it's just 2 calls. The first one to say how much the window can be resized by, and the second one to say, oh, change that, by the way, and even change the title. Not always going to be doing that. So that tiny little bit of overhead of doing things through the file system can be handled just fine, I believe. Okay. But my point is, if I want to work on menus or window titles or window resizing, all of them require me to talk to the file system. So I need to do a little bit of setup first, which is why I'm not deciding which one of the 2 features I'm working on. I'm just gonna have to work on setup first. Now, yesterday I talked about why I didn't do menus yesterday, and it was the fact that there was an exposed file system property here in the process definition, which means a process could only have one file system that it owned. And by the way, when I say a file system, really the correct term is file system menu, file system module, but this is my root directory. These are all modules. All of these are individual modules. If I open the terminal and then Linux doesn't get in my way, and I take this program, close it, and reopen it, there's actually a new module added, which is term history, which belongs to the terminal. Right, so there was a limitation. The terminal could only load one file system. Now it can load technically as many as it wants. That's a possibility that it has. Which means it can now also load the /menu, which is how it talks to the file system, but not how the file system talks to it. What I mean is from within the process, because there's also namespaces technically, though I'm not using them all that much. It means that different processes see different versions of the file system. They see different modules. For example, actually, there are examples of this. We have /environments with a plural and /environment. /environment is this process's environment, which is what we're going to be working with actually. In order to say, hey, set this window title, hey, this is how much you can resize the window by, and hey, these are the menus that you can set. And then environments is the container for every process's environment. So if we go to environments, these are process IDs. We're process 7. This is our environment data, the same that we will find here. Oh, another thing that maybe if I find an easy way to do when I set up in environment is to also be able to get information on your own process, because I kind of realized if you create a new process, you're given back the process ID. However, if you want to get your own process ID, there's no way to do that. Because there's no syscall for it, there's no way to do that, so we're also going to do that through environment if we can. I don't know why when I'm streaming, first off, the temperature goes up like 5 degrees immediately, and second, my nose gets itchy. I was literally sitting here playing a game until the stream started. I don't get it. I don't get it. I was totally fine, and now I'm itchy and hot. Trying to learn C, can you give some advice? Most advice that I can give is to spend time writing actual things and doing actual projects rather than just learning. Meaning, I think it's a lot easier to learn if you have an actual goal that you're trying to achieve, and learning is just something that gets you to that goal. Nervousness because you have to be live in front of a lot of people? Well, a lot of people is a relative term. But also, no, not really. Maybe at first it would have been like that, but not really. It wouldn't really make sense for it to be that way. Then again, it would be the most plausible explanation. I just don't feel nervous in any way. I feel totally calm right now. It's just very weird. And yet, it keeps happening. Jesus. Okay. So, speaking of environment, actually, I want to modify how that works. It's here. This is the kernel module that creates environments. And inside of itself, it creates several subfolders. Well, several, 3 actually, files within /environment for your process, or /environments /process ID those 3 directory, those 3 files. Right, so the first thing I probably want to do is change where they are. because they're just at the root of the process. That's not really what we want. Um, I probably want to move them because these are related to the terminal. That's what environment was. It was just the terminal so far. That's no longer the case. So you probably want to move it to /term. Right, so it's your process ID /term /this. And it does mean that I'm gonna have to change some helper functions. And I'm not even entirely sure that there is a way to test it because my terminal does not have this feature yet. My new terminal doesn't really have this feature yet. Well, that's not a good sign. Well, of course it's not a good sign. We need to create an entry for term itself, which is a virtual directory with no data signature. And an empty buffer. I hope that's enough. Kind of. Shit. There are some limitations to what powers this thing, which is the folder file system. It doesn't really allow subfolders right now. And I really don't want to waste time with that. And like I said, this thing is not really working. So I might leave fixing that for off stream and instead just kind of work on this real quick and just making a window and a let's leave it how it was. All right, let's keep it as it was and fix it later. /window and /menu. Although I'm not entirely sure on /menu. So let me do window first. I'm gonna work on that first. All right, so we're going to have a new file here called window, which is going to use a data structure called that, WinInfo. That is signature, not a data structure. And by the way, a data signature is just an 8-character identifier just to say, hey, this file contains this type of data, by the way. Nothing super relevant about it. But eventually, I do want to have a way to kind of like parse this data in a very simple way. So yeah, like whenever you find something called WinInfo, you know to parse it in the way that we're gonna define now. Every time I open this stream, this dog is asleep. You know the funny part? His eyes are like this right now. But he's asleep. Never mind, he's awake. I don't say it back, whatever, man. He's so rude sometimes, Jesus. You just spilled, not split, isopropyl alcohol on my desk. That type of stuff tends to evaporate pretty quickly. I'm pretty sure in this heat it's gonna be fine. Oh, he just did a big... So he's about to fall asleep. I'm not gonna go bother him. Hello, Celestial Bluetooth. All right. So yeah, for right now, I'm just gonna work on this window thing. Wait, stay where you are. Old? No, he's not old. He's turning 7 this month, actually. Very adult, but he's still young. Do dogs sleep all day too? Not as much as cats. Cats spend like 70% of their day asleep. This dog tends to, yeah. Though it's like, for example, if right now I were to leave this room and go somewhere else, he would follow me. So it's not like he's fully like out, fully asleep. Pedro? His name is Chester. Alright, so there's that. And if I'm not mistaken, I do have an environment folder in my shared folder here. Yes, I do. Perfect. So this here is what's powering, using those config, structure, and data files. No, Pedro and Jester, Pedro's just a Spanish version of Jester, like, yeah. All right, so we have these helper functions that allow us to take this stuff from binary serialization and pass it to these things. Because by the way, what I've been using environment so far is for a program to be able to send structured data for the terminal to render in a more structured manner, kind of like the new shell tends to do, right? This type of stuff. Though it doesn't work on my current terminal, I'll have to port it eventually. Especially now that I have scripting. This can be so useful. But anyway. Yeah, we have these helpers, and now we can just create a new one, which I'm not sure where to put this. Not entirely sure where to put this. We're talking about, I need to create essentially a data structure where I define all of the information about your window, like the name of it and need to sneeze again, god damn it. Not anymore. The name of it and window resizing stuff, even though right now it's just gonna be the name. Then where do I put it? In UI is not really the right place to put it. In environment, might just put it here, so I don't waste too much time on these types of things. Eventually just move it around, it's not a big deal. I'll need to include it from environment anyway, so it's fine. So we're gonna call this one window info. I'm gonna do a pragma once for it. We're gonna type def a structure to window info to, and we are going to God damn it, YouTube, stop glitching. Swear to God. Alright, so we're gonna define a buffer directly in here for the name. I'm going to limit it to 256 characters. And I'm going to allow defining a name length. Though that should be an unsigned integer. That's really all there is to window info right now. It is a 255 character yes. For a second there I was thinking, wait, is it 200? Like a U8 can hold up to a value of 256 or 255? It's technically 255 including 0. So this should be 255, right? Am I being dumb? Can someone tell me if I'm being dumb? I think I'm being dumb, but I'm not entirely sure. The maximum name length that I can represent with a U8 which is 2 to the power of 8, is 256. So I'm being dumb. The maximum length is 256. Jesus. All right. Like, I can do this. This is allowed. Not here, obviously, but it is allowed. Okay. I am being stupid. Okay. Hello, Peter. Welcome. All right, so we're gonna very quickly do a static inline void send window environment. I'm gonna have to rename these functions a bunch, but it's environment send window info, or set window info even. Set window info. Max value of 255. So I was right. Because a name length of 0 means there's no name. So yeah, the maximum name size here is 255. Not 256. I was right. I was right. You lied to me. We're going to take a window info structure. Should we take the structure directly? Or is that copying for no goddamn reason? So we're going to take that and we're going to just put it into the environment slash window buffer that we just created. The buffer being this info thing, the size being the size of a window info t. That is going to be checked for, you know, ranges by the kernel. But if your info is not valid, that's your problem, really. And what even is this true? Append. Yeah, no, it's not true. We're going to override what's currently in that file with this new structure. And then we're not going to be doing anything else. No, yes, we are. Hello, Steve. I need some way of telling the Windows system, hey, I've updated my information. Update yourself with my new information. Which I am not sure how to do. I can do it through the file system as well. Just write to /window should be enough. Now, I want to see if a 0 write is allowed. There is another way where I'm doing this. By the way, this is a thing that I'm going to start doing a lot. Writing to a file with a completely empty buffer can just be a way to say, hey, trigger this action to happen. It is a thing that I'm already doing in the theme. So that's where I want to check if I'm doing it correctly. Yep. If I call /theme/reload with a 0 buffer, 0 size, which by the way is allowed. Well, I've just confirmed that it's allowed. Then that will tell the theme system to refresh its information. Right, and I might even. Or even do /windows/info to make it more precise. Now that I'm going to be creating this file system thingy, there's even a way that I can do something that I've been meaning to do for a while. which is related to the theme as well. When I change the theme, for example, I change it to this one, you can see that the menu bar reloaded, the window inside of the thing reloaded, but the color of these things, why did that stay there? And the desktop color have not been updated. Everything else has, but this has not. I'm pretty sure if I create a new window, the new window has the correct color, but the old window has the old color until you update it. Oh, no, 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 no. Just creating a new window actually updates. The only issue there is that the window system doesn't know that it should refresh. So now that I'm creating slash window, I'm also going to be creating slash window slash info and slash window slash theme to tell it to refresh that. So maybe I'll be doing that as well. First though, we need to create slash window in order for the window system to be able to communicate, to be communicated with by other processes. Or even better, let me see if I can do this. Just writing to this file should do it. Right. Okay, the reason I need to sync explicitly here is because I'm talking to a terminal, and the terminal only talks to my process through its output. That's not really the case here. I'm in the kernel, so I have more control. The terminal is in user space, so I have less control. I have to do this stuff. All right, so let me see. The environment module, when it receives a write, it goes to the folder fs write, which is not really correct. I need to do a little bit more work. To be like, let's actually update. All right, so this stays the same, and then there's kind of a thing that bothers me sometimes when I am going back to systems that I've built a while ago, and it's that I start seeing limitations in the way that I build certain things, and I want to improve them. But it isn't the simplest way to do. The simplest thing to do, I mean. Structure data config, okay, that's good. And then window, which is my new file. It is going to be given the win info data signature. Let's call it data win signature, just so I can start doing this like that. You're using the data win signature. Block a day to be refactor day. That's not really something that I want to do on stream. I usually do it after the stream, but because I don't want to slow down the stream by just cleaning stuff up, moving code around, all of that stuff, it can sometimes limit the way that I do things. Maybe more so if I had more time, to be fair. I would, prepare a little bit more and be like, okay, today on stream in a few hours, I'm going to be working on this thing. So let me look that all the components are okay and ready to support what I need to do. Sometimes I have time to do that, sometimes I don't. And it's also something that I need to do in my free time. So it depends if I feel like doing that, All right, environment data, here we go. Now, this is going to hold a... Oh, I actually have access to it. Window info t win info, which is where our application is going to take that from. I mean, our system is going to take that from. Now, this, again, I can hack it together, but then do it properly later without needing to, waste time right now just moving code around for no reason. So essentially, I'm just going to check the data signature, which again is a voluntary type of piece of information. It can be modified at will, so it's not a reliable way to know what something is. It's just a little bit of an indicator. It's a hint. But right now we are going to use it to just indicate, hey, this file descriptor is talking to about the window. Otherwise, I need to refactor too much code to even care about doing this right now. The file descriptor size in this case is always going to be the size of a window info t. And then this doesn't really do much. All right, so if we opened /window, we give you a file descriptor that looks like this. Ah, because I'm using that. Oh, never mind. We don't even need to do what I said. Never mind. I'm actually a really good engineer that knows exactly what he's doing and kind of created this in a way that would make it really, really easy to do. Right, so that, but I want to create a buffer out of it. Where the buffer is that. The size is the size of a window info. The limit is the size of a window info. And cannot grow, cannot do anything, but it is static. It is a static buffer, which means you always begin write operations at the beginning of it. You want a buffer. Okay. I need to do that mapping of the buffer like this. So this whole buffer, come with me. I'm going to set it up to go into the window buffer and buffer map value. Look at that. I have something for that already. So if no proc environment window buffer, we're going to create it as proc environment win buffer as buffer map value. Oh, it doesn't work like that. It's buffer map value given this buffer, the value being the process environment window info, the size being the size of a window info, and the data signature being the data window signature. Okay, so I'm creating a buffer that I can use to talk to this data structure like a file. Hello, Mohammed. Thanks for the follow on Twitch. Cool. That was surprisingly easy, actually. I don't need to refactor anything because I'm that good a programmer. I know exactly what I'm doing. What do you know? Anywho. This thing is doing something useful to me, which is I don't really need to do that. I can just do this, skip that, and then go take this, where the ID of the file descriptor that I'm using to talk to this file actually indicates which file I'm talking to, which tells me you're talking to the window file. Hello, Snow. Right. And now, after I've done the write, if the write succeeded with the size of a window info and the file type, well, I should check this thing first. And the file type is an environment type window. So I just did an update on the window file, and the update succeeded because we wrote the entire data structure that we were trying to write. Then we actually don't even need to do anything special with it. We can just maybe create a refresh window function. Create this function and just boom, using the okay, first off, I need to, oh my god, Zed, remember when you used to work consistently? You know, actually, last night when I was using Zed, I wanted to scroll up to the beginning of a file, and I did it, and then I tried that same exact keystroke again, literally without even moving my fingers, and it took me to the previous file instead. And now it's doing the same thing. It's such an annoying code editor, I swear to God, it's so stupid. Jesus Christ, stop vibe coding. You actually had something good here, but you ruined it with vibe coding. It's ridiculous. What a downfall we're experiencing right now. The license for redacted is GPL 3. Why not use ED? Because it's the year of our Lord 2026. All right. I should be able to actually get the window ID. Get current process. I need to include more stuff. Process scheduler to get the current process and then get the window ID from that. All right, so refresh window metadata is going to work with a window ID. And it's actually not going to be implemented here. It is going to be implemented here. where it is going to just... I'm actually not sure how this is usually done. This is how I do what I'm looking to do. But not with a window ID, just with a weed. And I'm moving this whole thing, fuck it. I'm moving it into this file where I know that it will work. So you return nothing. Then, if you find a node with data, that node with data is going to be a window frame. And in this window frame, I'm going to create a new property that's going to be called dirty metadata, true, which will be used to refresh that. And then dirty windows, true, to refresh the UI. Dirty metadata is how we tell the window, refresh your current view. Refresh just the information on the window. Right. ED is the standard text editor. How long ago was that true? What year do you think it is right now? It's a little concerning. All right. And then when we are refreshing a window, 1999. Oh, so close to the year 2000. Can't wait. Hold on, maybe that dirty metadata thing is not going to be needed. I'm not sure. Or rather, it is needed, but held here. Because the window is going to need somewhere to render that information from, like to render the text from. So it needs to own it itself. Otherwise, it's going to have to fetch it from the process every time. So we don't really do this. We just tell it to fetch from the current process. Or we can even pass it to it. Also, the word metadata here, not really correct. Yeesh, but it exists in more places. Alright, so I have to be careful with renaming it to window info while there's an ad running. Oh, the ad is almost over. Right, anyway, refresh the window info with the info that we were just given. Okay, cool. Now, the frames info equal to this thing, like that. ED was one of the first features of the Unix operating system. Although not commonly used today, it remains part of the POSIX and Open Group standard alongside the full screen editor Vi. Okay, so it's not that person that thinks it's the year 1999. It's POSIX that thinks it's the year 1999. What an antiquated system, Jesus. Is ED even installed? It's a meme? I had never heard it was a meme. But anyway, it's not you that's wrong. It's POSIX that's wrong. Ed is still required. Ed, ED is still required for POSIX. Okay, so to be fair, like a lot of Linux distros aren't necessarily POSIX compliant. Mac is. Mac has ED. Yep. It's needed for that certificate. That is ridiculous. That is yet another way of highlighting that it makes no goddamn sense. The standard makes no sense. Okay, I think I have all the needed parts now. Although, one last thing before I finish writing the last little bit of code is I'm going to go into my demo process, which is going to be the one that I use to do this. And I'm going to do environment. Wait, I haven't actually exposed that function, so that's never going to work. Oh, it's a static thing. Okay. I'm going to create a window info. Well, I need to include all this stuff first. POSIX insists upon itself. That is very accurate. All right, so I'm going to go here, and I'm going to give it a name of demo, and a name length of 4. And then I'm going to do env set window info to this thing. And that is it. That is all the glue code that I need. The last little bit of thing that I need to write is to actually render the text onto the screen. Which kernel processes does here we are. All right, this is where we draw the damn thing. This here is where we can now write a label using a text UI config of a text slice being the frame info name and the frame info name length, then a font size of 2. We're gonna make it pretty small, and then that's it. Text is just for string, which we're not using in this case. We're using string slice. All right, and then something similar to this, which foreground color that, size, what are we gonna make it? I'm not sure yet what the size of this thing is gonna be. 30 is good, so the vertical is good, but this is going to start at 30. And its size is going to be parent.size.width minus 200, let's say. Should be more than enough. Hello, Kayal. Oh, he is sleeping well. Oh no, we're in Rust operating system. Can you imagine if it crashes right now? Well, it didn't work. I'll tell you that much. So that is not good. How do you approach UI development? Does one have to have an artistic sense to get it right? Not necessarily an artistic sense, but a little bit. Yeah. It's not like I'm particularly good at it. Mm, but yeah, you need to understand visuals, and most importantly, what visuals communicate, I feel like is a very important thing. It's not just, using certain shapes, colors, symbols, images, whatever, for the sake of it, but also because of what they're meant to communicate. Um, all right, so here I am sending that information. It is being written to /environment/window. So we're going to confirm that that's actually happening first. You can't be a Linux kernel dev too. Oh, to approach UI development? Oh no, just don't do anything for Linux. Or rather, if you do anything for Linux, you're not doing a great job of that. This is where the writing is happening. So let's confirm first off, writing to environment, and second, print writing to window. Let's begin with those two things, see if they're actually happening. I want to say no. I want to say neither is working. It is the first thing we do. We add a signal handler and then immediately not sure what this stack belongs to be completely honest. But or these values, I don't think they were supposed to be there. These are from like yesterday, I think. Oh no, they're from here. Okay, so these can go. Um, yeah, so seemingly nothing is happening. Writing to window file, there it is. All right, so it never makes it to /environment/window. That's very weird. Hello, Detricodes. It's going quite well. A little bit of a bug, but whatever. It's kind of stuff that happens. You know how it is. Opening file window. Okay, so the file name is correct. And we're sending out this as the environment name, as the environment type. So this is the file descriptor ID, plus, a unique identifier here on this side. It's like, this cannot fail. I'm pretty sure. If the file is window, it's not gonna fail. Yep. But we're never writing to the file. I do have string slices. They're pretty useful. It took me an embarrassing amount of time to come up with them, though. But yeah, they fix like 90% of C's issues. And it's super simple to do. You can even do them with a macro if you want. Not sure what happened, but I was quite surprised to know Linux users being awfully quiet about frequent kernel panics ever since version 7. But anytime a few people get BSOD, they make a big deal out of it. When Linux gets kernel panics across many distros because of a kernel update, let's keep that hidden. I have not heard of that, actually. At all. See, Linux users are gonna tell you that Linux is better and then completely ignore how people use a computer. Just put it like that. You haven't had any crashes? I don't know, I've never heard of that. Linux Mint is suffering from nasty kernel crashes. The only one talks about Linux Mint here. Doesn't really sound like a super common thing, maybe? It could very much be a Linux Mint distro thing, then yeah, sure. But anyway. Why are you not working? I had a kernel panic before, but I did something wrong myself. To be fair, you don't hear about kernel panics in Linux, like, at all. And it's not like you encounter them all that often. I read the instructions wrong and enabled the kernel module for something that was built into the kernel already. Interesting. I don't think Mint is super focused on stability. Ain't that the user-friendly one? Shouldn't it be? Oh, again, user-friendly in Linux means kid-friendly. According to the fucking interface that they have. Anyway, simple write, which is the function that I'm using, checks if the file was opened successfully, otherwise it gives us an error. If it's told to append, it's going to seek, but it's not going to do that. Pretty sure this was supposed to be the other way around. Then it's going to try to write to the file, and this seems to be the thing that isn't working. Oh, wait. I didn't put my custom function in there. There it is, demo. Look at that, my window has a name now. Although, I made it red. And why did I do that? I literally copied the code knowing full well it was going to be red because the button that I copied from is red. And I was like, yeah, let's keep it red. I think I even set it. Okay, I can afford to make it a little bit bigger also. Yeah, 3 should be enough. Probably better off without the margin as well. So, relative on 5 in the margin on this side. See how that goes. Much better, much better. Maybe even a little bit lower? We afford to do that. No, it breaks everything. There we go. Perfectly aligned. Works well. And 0 syscalls required for this. Okay, I have no idea what's even going on here. Why is YouTube chat always the only one that needs moderation? I've had to moderate maybe 5 people on a year of streaming in Twitch chat and several a week on YouTube. Hello, Eyeglass. Happy affiliate anniversary, thank you. Is that still showing? Emacs connoisseur and hater. And hater. I have it so I can look at how it does stuff and do it better in my own code editor. Has nothing to do with you, that tree. One time that I remember on Twitch, I can think of a few, but yeah, genuinely, the amount of moderation needed on YouTube chat versus Twitch chat, crazy. Funniest part is I have moderators on Twitch, but not on YouTube. So, whoops. Anyway. Yeah, he's out cold. He always is. He's just a prop at this point. Today, though, he's sleeping quiet. Quite soundly. Do you say it like that? Oh no, I'm not an English speaker. How long was that? An hour and 22 minutes of doing something and it just went well. The biggest issue that I had is that I forgot to change a default function for the custom one. That was cool. That was easy. Alright. And maybe I don't want to complicate things too much when it comes to the environment module. I just want to have /environment window for window information, menu. No, menu works in a different way. I'll have to figure that out. It works in a different way. Menu is your file system that you mount, not not something that you put in an existing file system. So that data and structure are for the terminal to display structured data in them. Config is terminal config. I'll need to make that one a little bit clearer. And then that's it. That's really all it takes. Okay. There's this thing that's bothering me, and like I've been putting my finger accidentally like against the, thing that's holding this to the desk. And I'm not sure if it's like electrocuting me or something, but it feels weird. It's also plastic, so it's literally impossible. That's just... Yeah, I'm just making that up. Do I have like an injury on my finger or something? That's what... I don't know. Okay. I'm being electrocuted by plastic. That's a possibility, I guess. New law of physics just dropped. Okay, we're cool. We're good. Native hex RGBA. Yes. Static electricity from plastic doesn't make sense. I figured it was metal, but then I touched it and it's plastic. Plastic can hold rather large static charge. Interesting. It's actually not happening anymore. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I have the entire reason that my operating system, by the way, does rendering in BGRA format is so I can have native hex as ARGB. Balloon. Oh, yeah, that's true. All right. Something I hadn't thought of, I guess. Okay, so I have Windows with titles. Although, if endf cross endf. This is not going to work when this library is being used to compile not third party, but rather, what's the name of that? A cross-platform. Because, of course, in cross-platform, I need to talk to the windowing system there to tell it, well, actually to GLFW, to tell it to render my window with a title. And that's going to be really useful because all my programs used to be called redlib in their names. So, which is the name of the library itself. So now I can actually customize it, which is pretty cool. So I'll have to implement this function there to do that properly. Okay. Maybe even else. Define this as an extern, which is going to be implemented inside of here, but I'm not going to do that right now because I'm not working on cross-platform, so it doesn't really make much sense. But with that and icons, I can finally consider a certain game that I've made to be finished, though that icons are a pain in the ass that I don't want to deal with. Yo, he's awake. What's up? How you doing? Hola. See, he waved. Okay. Now I do have to choose. Do I want to do menus or do I want to do resizing? TBH? Menus. I want to do menus. Which Linux distro do you prefer for coding and why? My goal for 2026 is to be able to do coding within my own operating system, so none of them is the short answer. I fucking hate Linux, as a matter of fact. I cannot stand this goddamn system. With that being said, Debian and Ubuntu before it used to strike a pretty good match between easy to use and customizable and yeah, they're okay. Own kernel, yes. That's the one that I'm working on right now. Absolutely cannot stand Linux, man. Absolutely cannot stand this goddamn operating system. So annoying and pedantic. And this is completely unrelated, but I changed the date format the other day, and now I left it to be only time, and it looks too big. So I'm gonna change it back to time and date, even though I don't really need it. What's wrong with it? How much time do you have? There's a lot wrong with it. So much can go wrong with it, which shouldn't even happen. It's ridiculous. Mac I like because it's like Linux. It has the good things of Linux and POSIX, but it also has the good things of a modern operating system, and it's actually stable. And my biggest issue with Linux, sometimes stuff is going to go wrong. And Linux allows it to go wrong with absolutely no control for you. Even something like running an old game that is made for running a certain resolution, and now your computer is a much bigger resolution, it will mess with your monitor's resolution, make it unusable, and there's nothing you can do about that. Even something that simple means Linux is I call it a joke. Just call it a wimp. Stand up for yourself. You're the fucking operating system. Take control sometimes, god damn it. That is the overall... That is an example, but it shows my issues with Linux are of that variety. But yeah, Fedora tends to be pretty stable, I agree. I would have gone to Fedora if I didn't Debian. Why didn't I? I was considering it, but I ended up with Debian instead. I'm not entirely sure. I was on Ubuntu, but I moved away from it because it itself broke my network manager. By broke, I mean erased it from existence within my system. I no longer had a network manager. This happened twice. The solution is to download the network manager, by the way. Another example of why I think Linux is fucking stupid sometimes. You download the network manager if the network manager disappears. By the way, no one's managing your networks, so you don't have a network. Ubuntu's kind of bloatware. It really isn't. It really isn't. There's not been that much difference between Ubuntu and Debian, to be honest. The biggest difference really has been the fact that on Debian I'm using KDE and on Ubuntu I was using GNOME. That's it. That's the only one. We have RHEL servers at work. What is RHEL? Rachel. What is that? Isn't that a Dothraki? Oh, Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Right. Okay, I don't know why I wear headphones these days. If anyone wants to do TTS, give me a little heads up so I can put the headphones on. But I cannot be bothered right now. I remember seeing this person complain about the fact that on Arch they had to update every other day. What happens if you don't update, for that matter? I know that Arch tends to be pretty up to date, but like, if you don't update, nothing happens. Yeah, exactly. You don't have the latest features. You really don't have to. Although I have to say, for Debian, I've been told that this is not the case. There are a fair amount of updates, often. Dependencies can start conflicting with each other. Yeah, but if you don't update anything at all, I mean. Probably if you update one thing, you have to update a bunch of other things, at the very least, if not everything. But yeah, you probably have to do it. Always felt like Ubuntu came with too much crap. I don't know what crap it comes with nowadays. That Debian, for example, doesn't also come with. I found them pretty equivalent in that sense. Okay, I have window titles. I'm so happy about that. Although, there is one thing. Oh, I made it, okay. I was like, why is it all capitalized? Because I made it all capitalized. Although, well, let's test. Good. String slices properly. Which I didn't update the size of it. 12 characters. I like that purple background. It is nice, though this is technically Rust OS. You can customize the color. So I have 3 different themes. And I switched to Rust OS to show something that I wanted to show. And I just didn't bother doing it, like changing back to it. Although there is a little glitch that happens. Again, the one that when you switch, not everything switches. And again, I don't really need to use the file system. I'm in the kernel. Both the theme that is actually handling that change and the desktop environment that is not updating are in the kernel, so I can just tell them to update. Yeah, Ubuntu works fine, but I've heard a lot of people call it bloatware, and I genuinely don't know what they're talking about. It simply works for me. Just focus on actual work instead of spending 1 hour on dot files. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. I'm working on a project. I need to work on that, not on fixing my operating system, not on customizing my desktop environment using dot files, which is, by the way, ridiculous. Ridiculous that you need to do that. I need it to work. That's it. Anyway, here's the thing. When you call /theme/reload, we make something called a complex entry that has this file action. When you call write, it calls this reload function, which loads the theme and then should also do refresh desktop colors. Which I'm just gonna mark extern here. And I'm going to put it in here. Now, is it just this that I want, actually? Kind of. This is going to be the implementation of the function. Calling this and that. How is it conflicting? My dude, how is it conflicting? Also, it needs to go before this function, so, like, here. Okay. Oh, it was conflicting because I don't understand why when you create a function, or when you call a function that doesn't exist, it defaults to an int. I'm assuming it's so that it's 0, but it still will fail the compilation, so what's the point of doing that? Wait, it won't fail the compilation. There we kinda go. Yeah, kinda. There we go. Now you can fully switch. That was way easier to do. It's a leftover for pre and CC. It's a warning, not an error. Actually, if I'm not mistaken. It's an error in my system because I have W error enabled, but like my hair is all messy. Jesus Christ. I need to wash it after the stream too. I have a benchmarking addiction that led me to cache. It's basically Arch with special repos that have packages built with factorization enabled. Is it me or there's like a lot of DIY distros? I feel like you wouldn't need that many if they were truly DIY. Started using it as my WSL distro. Interesting. You know, WSL is something I never used, because the last thing I wanted when I was on Windows was to think, you know what Windows needs more of? Linux. I absolutely never have had that thought. So, although if I was doing development, I didn't want to fully switch to Linux, I would have done that. I wasn't doing development on this machine until I started streaming, actually. Okay. Let me see what is going on with YouTube chat, I swear to God. some ridiculous people. Anyway. Do I want to do menus now? Yeah, what the hell? Let's do menus. I want to do that. What music do I listen to? I do believe that saying a little bit of everything is a cliche. However, hold on. I wish I could show this. The message that I just deleted on YouTube chat keeps coming back. As if YouTube chat wasn't, like, the content of YouTube chat wasn't the problem. YouTube chat itself being janky as shit does not help. YouTube is a fucking mess, I swear to God. What a platform. What a platform. It's incredible. There's a message that keeps switching between deleted and non-deleted. It's a visual glitch. It's ridiculous. Refreshing the page fixed it, but Jesus Christ. Have you ever considered, like, actually writing decent code? Google, please, maybe. Have you ever considered putting in some actual effort into what you do? Anyway, I do believe that I can back it up if I say truly everything. Because people can say, oh, I listen to everything, but it's not exactly like that. I do mean it. I do mean it. Hello, Adam Fighter. Happy affiliate. Thank you. I like not having ads too much to go to Twitch. Fair. Lately I haven't really been doing ad breaks either. Which maybe I need to do. Okay, do I want to maybe do a commit of everything that I just did? First off, this bug that I randomly found. Second, refreshing windows. Window information. Okay. Window information. Can I do complementary color here? I think I can. Complementary color to the system's... wait, does the system have like an accent color? It should have an accent color. I can use that. It's a foreground color. Accent color, yes. Does Twitch let you not do ads at all, or do they force some ads? No, they force a certain minimum 3 minutes of ads, I believe. You can do more, but not less. Alright, there we have it. Accent color. Very convenient to have. The only way is to not become affiliate. He's been using JavaScript for a part, so no wonder YouTube breaks. Yeah, but it's a little bit of the vibing that's more the problem, I feel like, and the layoffs are a little bit of a problem, really, not so much the JavaScript itself, though it doesn't help. But it's not the sole cause of this happening. It's just, you know, what happens when you lay off a bunch of employees and you tell the other ones, which, by the way, you've now threatened with also laying off eventually, that you're going to give them a tool that is not good enough for the job as a replacement for the people that you fired. Well, I feel like you kinda may not get the best work out of them. Benefit of affiliate is you make money, pretty much. Alright, gotta take care of some of these out. Cool, everything else looks good. Good, 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 good. Wait, I have to do this properly. I have to say, like, Git is so useful until you have submodules. Then it can be kind of annoying to work with. Like, there's so many tools that Git has that I actually learned to use thanks to Stream, like bisect, which allows you to go through your history, marking when a bug appears and when it doesn't, so that you find the exact commit that introduced it. That makes debugging so much easier. It doesn't work with submodules because it doesn't bring your submodule back to how it was at that point in history, which seems logical, but it doesn't do that, so it becomes useless. Stashing only works, again, inside of the main thing, not the submodule. Maybe there's some option for it, but this should be default. So Git can be so useful, but the second you work with submodules, it can be so annoying. I wish submodules were more opaque. I didn't have to bother about them so much, but why? Zed! Zed is also very useless. Okay, see how the commit message that was there before that I was complaining about disappeared before I even got to fully explain what I was complaining about? I'm terrified of doing commits with Z because sometimes they just break. Sometimes I'm doing commits to things that I'm not actually doing commits to. Like right now, I'm trying to do a commit for shared. Who knows if the commit is going to go into OS instead, because Z is just vibe coded like that. Another one that's like that. Though there I can't really blame layoffs. It's fully just vibe coding bullshit. Oh, shut up. I did CD into home folder shared. I should have done that into subfolder shared. That's where I meant to do that. Alright, so hopefully Zed, we're good? Looks like it worked. Good. Sometimes I prefer using more established and long-lived applications like VS Code. They're also starting to vibe code, so don't expect it to be stable for much longer. Vibe coding is like a parasite. It's just gonna eat it up from the inside. That's what's happening to Zed, by the way. When I started using Zed, Git client had a couple of glitches, but it's actually gotten worse and worse and worse and worse. Because that's just how vibe coding works. Eventually, the slop becomes too big for the humans to handle, so they stop writing the code, and the agent is the only one writing the code. But eventually it will become too much slop even for the agent to understand what's going on. And then this type of shit is going to become more evident. So, yeah, it's kind of like that. Vibe coding is a little bit of a parasite. You put a drop of it in, eventually it's going to take over everything. Said it's getting vibe coded. Look, I think I may have been in denial about this because genuinely every time I opened it, there was an update. It doesn't matter if I streamed 3 times a day, there was an update 3 times a day. Not really, but there was an update every day at least. It's like entropy, it can only increase. Yes, exactly. I should have known. But like I can guarantee you there's been a commit in the last hour to Z right now. Do not say the last minute. That's interesting. There hasn't been a commit in 18 hours? That is Claude down? Does something happen? Copy a kid's homework over doing their own homework. Yeah, exactly. To be fair, most people don't really act like that. It's just tech industry is going through a little bit of a literacy crisis right now. Actually, does this tell you anything? Does this feel like... Do I need anything else to prove to you that this is vibe coded? Also, just scrolling through this thing, the word agent has come up like 10 times. So, Yeah. Although that is because it's also an agentic thing. So you can use agents within Z. So that's what agent means in this context, but still. Again, when you keep in mind all of that stuff, it's a little ridiculous. By the way, this is still here. Cool. This is when I originally realized that Z was vibe coded. This is the moment I like opened my eyes. It's finding out that Z has a page dedicated to talking about how cool of a Lisp editor it is. Powered by TreeSitter. Precise syntax highlighting. S expressions, quoting, and macros in Lisp are highlighted clearly to keep your focus in parentheses. So first off, this is a very AI sentence. Right? But ignoring even that, it's literally not true. It does not have Lisp syntax highlighting. When I use Lisp syntax highlighting, I use Racket, which is a dialect of Lisp. But not even made by them, mind you. It's a third-party extension, I'm pretty sure. It's by Michaela here. Although, wait, hold on. Okay, it is made by them. Okay, Michaela z.dev. Okay, never mind. So they do have that. Okay. Although, the fact that you refer to it as Lisp is already a big red flag because there's Lisp dialects, and again, the dialect that you're using is not Common Lisp, it's Racket. So it's very weird that you just call it Lisp. I feel like that already is an indicator. This is technically true, but again, for a specific dialect. The syntax highlighting is not exactly precise when I use Common Lisp. It's good enough, but it's not precise. If I was using actually Racket, it would be better, or if I was using a Common Lisp syntax highlighter. Now, powered by TreeSitter is just, again, more AI slop. Then, semantic understanding. So this is actually explaining how TreeSitter works. Almost as if whoever wrote this has no distinction between the fact that they're supposed to be advertising for Z or for TreeSitter. So again, this is all about TreeSitter. All right. Then there's a completely unrelated part about these parsers. Then we have Lisp debugging support, which it advertises as a feature and then immediately goes into another LLMism. While native Lisp debugging isn't available yet, said offers. This sentence alone feels so incredibly AI-ish because of the whole thing of always needing to be helpful. So if the thing that you're trying to do doesn't really exist, back in the day, it would just hallucinate it. Now it's gotten better at not hallucinating it, but instead offering you an alternative or whatever. Just never say, this is not available. Always say, this is not available, but can we interest you in debugging HTML instead? Debugging HTML, well, debugging JavaScript instead. And, yeah. This page alone is what immediately showed me, wait a damn minute. And then it recontextualized everything, and since then, I have to admit, I used to like Z before that. And I think I'm just more critical of it, so I notice its bugs more. Or rather, I've lost hope that those bugs are going to be fixed. Because of what I said before. Who's gonna... The slop that is powering their Git client, who's going to clean that code up? Who's gonna refactor it to actually make it work correctly? To not be this inconsistent, ridiculous mess. Who's gonna do that? An agent is getting to the point that it cannot even handle it. So who's going to handle that? Who's actually going to be able to be like, okay, it's time to clean up the Git client. Either you remake it from scratch without an agent, or this is lost. Or you remake it from scratch with an agent and you just restart the cycle all over again. I guess you can also do that. And we know which one it's going to be. Time to unleash Claude on the bugs yourself. Oh, yeah. Sounds like a problem for future AI. Oh, yeah, to be fair, when Claude 7 comes out with a better context, bigger context, then maybe it'll be able to handle it for another 2 or 3 months. Then Claude 8 hopefully will come out by then. We're on like Claude 5, I'm pretty sure. I skipped a version, whatever. Who gives a shit? We should be at Claude 0. Even in the Vim repo you will find Claude commits? Oh no. Oh no. My biggest flex for my code is that all of it is allowed on Codeberg, which doesn't allow LLM written code. So, yeah. Although, I have to say Codeberg, also not super reliable, same as GitHub. And, yeah, I don't super love it, but I do have a couple of projects on it. By which I mean redacted and a couple of private repos. I have my game engine and a game on it. But they're private. So to the public, I only have one. By the way, I was making a video on Git remotes, and as I was doing that, I tried opening something on GitHub, and it took literally 2 minutes. It's recorded, so I counted it. It took literally 2 minutes to open a page. This same page, actually, I think. This one. To open this took 2 minutes. Great job, GitHub. I thought you got your rendering code from 400 to 100 milliseconds. By the way, that game that I mentioned, completely CPU based and 60 FPS, which is 16 milliseconds per frame. It can actually handle more. Sometimes I have to refresh. Oh, yeah. That's exactly what I thought. I just need to refresh. No, it still took 2 minutes when I refreshed. I even did this, like closing and opening it in a new tab. Okay, I thought it was gonna do it again. Alright, that worked. You were almost at 300 stars. Hold on. We're almost at 300 stars. 28 forks. What are y'all doing? What is everyone doing? Can I see the forks? Can I not see the view existing forks? Okay, I have to. Claude has done the second most commits to Vim in the last 3 months. Eesh, interesting. Do they have no residency where you live or something? What do you mean? Not super up to date. Alright. Interesting. Is there a direct button to see the forks though? Because that I didn't see. Found that using AI is a trap. It is. Just like if AI enters the code base, it's never gonna exit. That's not true because I used to use AI, but I don't anymore. So it can exit your workflow, but it's not gonna exit your code bases. Um, but also the convenience that it adds, which is mostly fake for that matter, is so convenient that you don't care. Okay, so like real quick, I see that there's 28 forks. I can click on here and it's a button to fork, and then inside of it there's a view existing forks. Or I can go in here and then see my forks, but how do I see other people's forks? I have to click the button and then go here. It's gotta be a better way. On the right bar, insights, contributors, community. Do you think the same can happen to Linux if Linux accepts AI into the kernel? Well, no, they have a huge, super complex review process. It's just probably gonna make the review process slower. You have 28 forks on the right side of the code page. I see the number, but then how do I see these 28 forks? Forks is at the bottom on the insights page. Oh, here it is. Oh, okay, this is how you get to it. Main page, and look where it says about. Oh, wait, here. Okay. Okay, there it is. Got it. Got it, got it, got it. Understood. Wait, so... No, these aren't necessarily active. Most of these aren't active. There's just a couple that are. Alright, got it. Here's where it is. Can we see activity stats? Oh, we can actually look at this for Z, so that's gonna highlight what I was trying to show before. Although maybe I don't have access to it. Although 5 pull requests, 11 closed issues, 10 new issues, 5 commits to main, and 14 commits to all branches in the last 24 hours. That is a low amount. Did they stop vibe coding? What is happening here? These numbers are ridiculous. These numbers are not what I would expect at all. Okay. So... hold on, there's ads running. Another ad break I didn't take. After that, I'm going to start working on something again. I think I can push what I have right now too. I've done this four commits here, but I wasn't sure if I should push or not because I was a little bit scared when it comes to stability, but it's worked fine, so after the stream I can push. Okay. Wait, what is a Peltier plate? Oh, you're doing like temperature sensor, right? So is that how this works? Because I have a fan like this. I just installed it. I didn't bother looking at how it works. I just put the damn thing together and put it in. Interesting. TC. That's the user-friendly name, right? Oh, 6. Okay, that's a much simpler one. To be fair, yeah, for a microcontroller makes sense. Okay, here's the thing. We're gonna do menus now. These. And again, we're doing them through the file system, which means your application is going to have a slash menu module that it mounts to the system. Okay. To do that, there is a syscall that I'm going to need to modify a little bit. That is the mount file system. Load FS module, actually, it's what it's called. So you're going to load a file system module called menu. But I'm going to need to modify it to indicate if it's global or not. Because a menu is not going to be global. Right, so that's the correct way of handling that. You mount, for example, the terminal mounts term history, which it can only mount to, which is available to everybody, but it can also mount menu, which should only be mounted for itself. So that's what global indicates. Although I need a way to say, hey, if something is being mounted to slash menu, don't allow it. Even if, because you can just set this to false. And we kind of don't want that. We don't want to do that. So, do I just... This part I really don't like. Do I mount something called slash menu to the kernel just so that someone else can't mount to it? Because how else am I gonna prevent it from happening? Like, I need to reserve that mount point to not be mounted at all. But yeah, I don't know. Most likely that's the way to do it. Maybe just eventually I can make it so slash menu on the kernel. No, I really don't need it to do anything. I don't know. Can I lock a path? I don't really have a system for doing that, but that's probably the best way to go about it. Yeah. Okay. I'll do that, I think. I'm just gonna have some locked paths that cannot be mounted to certain file systems. Instead of having to mount just a dummy file system to it, just so you can't mount another one. Yeah, just reserve it like that. Okay. um, yeah, I like that suggestion. Actually, I might allow you to even like reserve a certain module for yourself, even if you don't load it yet. Maybe that's a thing that I want to do. So we'll have to do that. That's one thing we'll have to do. But first, let's do one thing at a time. We are going to have in the process syscall for load fs mod. Here it is. A boolean global taken from the second argument of the damn thing. Current thread. Second argument, there we go. And that goes by the way, this function is like in the scheduler for some reason, but I didn't know where else to put it, so I just left it here. Request module and release module. No, reserve. Reserve and unreserve, because this is not about creating them. It's just about, hey, I'm going to own this. Mostly, I want it to be used by the kernel, and then I might allow a syscall so that user space can also do that. Your program has to be running, of course, for that to happen. All right, so again, not sure why this is here, but there it is. Blogal, I was gonna write, I think. All right, so by default, when you load the module, it is going to try to load it to your own file system. If that fails, we return false. If not global, we return true, because we're done. Otherwise, we load it to the actual file system. That's how that's going to work. Okay, so that is how that is going to work. Then I'm going to go into the module for the terminal. And I am going to take this thing. I'm going to move it into the demo. I'm going to create a menu. So demo menu is going to be the name of it. There's a version number. There's no operations to it just yet. We're going to be designing them, but there's none right now, so this is fine. And we're going to do load fs module. It's going to be the menu mod. And it is not going to be global. Again, the point of this is it should fail if global is not if global, if menu is reserved, if this mount point is reserved, because you're not supposed to mount to it. Release sounds like freeze memory. Yeah, I already have a release too. So reserve or non-reserve, I'm gonna go with. Anyway, we're just gonna mount it. Nothing else is gonna happen. Actually, let me be smart about this. Not in the demo program. I'm going to do it in the file browser. Because in the file browser, then I can directly look at it. Very convenient for me. All right, that was messed up as hell, but there we go. So the first thing I do is I mount that thing, which is actually not going to be visible. Because it is mounted, but it is not available. Because we're not going to be the ones accessing it. The desktop environment is going to be accessing it manually, not through the normal file system behavior. Right, what I should have also done in the terminal where I was there is say that this is in fact global. Oh no, it is visible, okay. That's actually okay, because this is our menu, so I do want that. Okay. So let me create a very basic version of this thing using the vfs. Which is just a helper function for a virtual file system. And then I'm going to need to, here's a thing that is a little bit weird. But these modules, there's no initializer to them. You could have an initializer, but it's not going to run. from user space modules. On kernel modules, yes, but not on user space modules. Not entirely sure if the limitation for that is still valid or not, but I'm gonna go with yes. So I'm not gonna do it. Actually, I'm gonna go with no. It's not, but I don't feel like writing the boilerplate for it now. I'm just gonna add a to do. This is from where I didn't have threading. Now I do. So I'm able to actually call these functions from within the kernel, but not privileged. In 10 years, this to-do will still exist? No, it won't. Do you ever plan on having this self-hosted? Maybe, I don't maybe, yeah, maybe. I would need a compiler, so IDK. It's a structural to-do, okay? I can't move it. Why forward the VFS as data members? Because these are custom function pointers. So these are just helpers, right? It's a module that works with this. So for example, in the environment, I just replaced the write with a custom version of it, but I still used the folder FS, which is a type of virtual file system, but one that works with folders specifically. Okay. So actually need some boilerplate from that. Something like this, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember. Hold on. Somewhere else that I'm done the same thing. Make entry. Just do that. All right. So just call make entry without a data signature. There we go. And without the ID. Right. So what menu does this actually have, for that matter? It doesn't have anything useful. That's all here. Ah, that is definitely static electricity from the damn thing. It has create new folder, file, object, whatever. No. Select. No. You can't really do anything with this thing. Oh well. Let's just do a file test. Let's call it file test. And another one we're gonna call file hello. And another one we're gonna call edit world. So that's gonna create these virtual files. Is it gonna do the folders correctly? I'm gonna go with no. Probably not. The VFS is not very good with folders, I think. No, maybe? Well, let's see. Let's find out. All right. Again, we can actually see its structure. So let's see. In the file browser, we now have a menu which we cannot access. What so ever? Why not? It has a stat function. Oh. I kinda remember there was a limitation in which a process couldn't access its own virtual file system, which is weird as hell, but technically was a thing. And I'm not sure if that's still a thing. Or... oh no, it's a completely different thing. It's a completely different thing. Let me see if I'm correct about that. No, I'm not. I thought just because it's not mounted to the actual kernel's file system, the kernel doesn't really see it. But no, that's not it. It's something else. Alright, you know what? I've been sitting here for 2 hours and 20 minutes. So give me 3 minutes of a break and I'll figure it out. Okay, I'm back. Unfortunately, we've lost one viewer um, during the break, though he is watching me. But he's not visible on the stream. So not one viewer, but one viewable, or so. We've actually gained viewers, I'm pretty sure. Oh, and gained coffee too. Anyway, menu in the file system is going to be an interesting one, but seems to not be working well. Failed to get info for menu. Pretty sure it comes from here. Failed to... No, it doesn't. Oh, it comes... Okay. Right, I forgot I did this. The file browser, its code is actually not in main.c, but rather in a little header called filebrowser.h, so that I could easily include it in other applications as well. Yo. Get back there. I need you. That's your job. Come on, come. You're sitting on my foot. Don't do that. Anyway, do you see what the problem is, Chester? The problem is that we're not at the dog park, he says. It is 50 degrees, so I don't think we're gonna enjoy that very much. It would be the only dog at the dog park right now, but sure, complain about that. It is not 50 degrees, I'm pretty sure. Hmm. 37-ish sounds about right. Let me see. 37. Oh, that's what Google says. Do I sleep well? Not in this fucking heat. Oh. I didn't realize there was some code here to test the terminal history thingy. Kinda didn't notice that. 98 Fahrenheit. Interesting. Alright, so menu is there, but it isn't actually working. Because stat... Of course, the question I want to ask is it being loaded? Actually, what happens if I just return true? See if that works. 20 degrees here. You're lucky. Very lucky, actually, yes. Okay, so it seems like it's not being called because that alone should have made it work. "25 overcast? What a dream." Yeah, so this is not being called. I do suspect it's because menu is not actually owned by me, but that may not be it. Oh shit. I just opened the same project on Zed. Nope. But the entry is invalid, so maybe, but this is not being called at all. Ugh, I don't know if I want to spend time on this because this is not technically what I need to fix right now. Although it should work. But then again, like I said, a process cannot technically access its own um, information. So 90 degrees over here. I'm not sure if you mean Fahrenheit or like just 180 degrees over here, just in case. No, what am I supposed to be looking for? Maybe in the job system? I don't know. I know I put a limitation somewhere that a process couldn't access its own file system. And I don't know where I put it. I don't see it here. Oh, this is worse than I thought. You cannot... There's a bunch of files that I just never bothered implementing properly? I thought I finished that. Apparently I didn't. Jesus Christ. Oh, that's so much worse than I thought. Yeah, here. This is it. If the current process is the owner of the file system, don't do anything. Return false. That kind of worked. A bit. Occasionally. Not always, but it does work, kinda. Kinda. Yeah, a little bit. Um, okay, so I think I can safely remove that limitation, which shouldn't have been... Well, it made sense when I made it, but it doesn't really make sense anymore. Anyway, back to the file browser and do just VFS stat. Okay, cool. That's back. Although, um, other issue, other issue with what I did is, well, rather issue that I found out about. Apparently, I completely forgot to implement most file system functions for user space. And I have no idea how this happened. So I'll have to implement those before we can go super far with this thing. But I think I can get away with just the structure of it today. And then... Damn, I thought that would work. And then do that. I don't understand how I never implemented them. All of these functions are not implemented. Read file, write, close, and truncate. Read, write are the ones that surprised me the most. Truncate and close, sure, but it's really weird. Anyway, damn, sucks that this didn't work. Who needs read, write? Actually, we need write for this, but to just show you the menus, we don't need them at all. Because ideally, what I want to do with this thing is a little bit of a complex entry like I had in the theme. Let me see if I can. Complex entry, right? So where you do file test. We already have one, right? So let's delete that one. It's going to be a virtual file, with no data signature. And then it is going to have some file actions. And those file actions, we're going to have a write function, and that is going to be the test function. That's how I want these buttons to work. No alias needed. Just empty string for that. Although wait, hold on. It does need to have the correct signature, which is using a file descriptor and a buffer and a size and a file offset. Something like that. This is supposed to be a char pointer. I find these error messages, by the way, so incredibly hard to parse. I wish they would just put them on two different new lines so you can easily tell what's different. Initializing file write function, aka an unsigned long function pointer with a struct file, a const char, an unsigned long, and an unsigned long with a size t of an unsigned long struct file pointer, char pointer, unsigned long. Those look exactly the same to me. Oh, const char. That is the problem, okay. Right, so essentially the file test button is going to be implemented by this function by using an entry like this one. This is really all the boilerplate we technically need, although I do wish that the VFS could actually see the damn things. I'm going to check something real quick. Help. Using file. Is the problem that there are directories? Is that the problem? I don't think it is, but it's not working. I implemented a read dir. It needs a little bit of a helper function. Or if I'm not mistaken, I can just implement this. Define it, I mean. Then no. There's a lot of complex routing to this thing, which I have to say, when I wrote it made sense. Now it can be a little bit incomprehensible. But I was using this type of thing before. Yeah, actually that helps. This is a URL that you can define inside of one of these file system helpers. And then you can access this as a parameter. As it explains here, actually. ID state is going to resolve to 3 state, and ID out is going to resolve to 3 out. So that has a whole lot of logic to it. Ah, no, so okay. I don't need to implement that thing. I specifically need to not implement that thing. But then, why are you not working? We're calling readDear on the thing, which is going to call this parse the path. All right, so of course, check number 1 is this function actually being called? Actually return 0 here. readDear. Okay, so the function is actually being called. Then am I doing this part wrong, perhaps? This, by the way, is an LSP, which I need to move into user space. LFSP, Language File System Protocol. But it looks mostly correct to me. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong, to be honest. Again, this code can be a little bit incomprehensible. All right, alternative. The terminal has its own thing, which it uses with stackfs. Stackfs is doing its own thingy here. Oh my god, I'm dreading looking at this code. Oh my god. I don't feel like doing that. But I do need to read the code if I want to understand what is happening. I mean, not read the code, but like I need to be able to read the directory. So I need this to work somehow. All right, so stat is working. Then list route directory contents calls this function. So that's exactly the same. Using the entries, subdirectory, path resolution partial, emit route contents. This is the only one that's actually using that. And it doesn't do anything complex about it. It just calls VFS read dir stat, right? Close, open, init. Then it makes complex entries. And it has special functions. Everything else is standard. So now I put the custom read there, but it doesn't change the fact that I can do this. I guess. Let me try that. Just copy in the code and see what happens. Now I don't see the read there at all. Wait, I don't know, calling it. Cast read there. Let's try that again. All right. It says it read 4 bytes. Which it feels to me like it only read this. No, it didn't read. 4 bytes is the number of entries that it found. There's 0 entries inside of it. I can actually see the number of entries if I'm not mistaken. I just go to a helper dot list. What is that? What type of object is that? Dot list count. I can do that. It's gonna be 0. Yeah. Okay, so parse path. Why are you failing? All right, so it's going through all of the entries that we've created, which is the first thing I want to do is check if that is valid, right? If this stack count of entries, but I'm pretty sure it is. Then it's going to get that entry, check the pattern of it, go through each of the components. This is the part that is maybe a little bit of a pain. But we're doing partial resolution, whatever that might mean. All right, so we're going through each of the components of the path that we gave this thing with slash. So that is going to be help, then file, file, then hello, edit, edit, then world, file, and then test. The way that I said that made no sense, like orally, but it doesn't matter. Let's just move on. This is not the case at all. then you're also not going to fail. There's going to be something. If the template split current fits the path splitter current, then we found something. All right, but what is the template split? I'm starting to understand what's happening, but not yet what the problem is. All right, so we're splitting the pattern that we're checking as well as the subdirectory that we have. And right, so the pattern is this one, and the subdirectory is actually empty. So wait, hold on. That means that this case is valid. This case is valid, in which there's no path. Because we couldn't advance the path splitter. Okay, that was actually correct. There's no path. And then the template split pointer is not smaller than the length. So we've gotten to the end of the template. Otherwise, it tries to resolve this. But otherwise, I feel like it should be doing this. Maybe that's the solution? Hello, Stony, who says that in Dutch. Gefeliciteerd met je affiliate jubileum. The funniest part is I understand what it means. Probably butcher the pronunciation, but it doesn't matter. Doug is awake. He was not awake. I'm so sorry, Justin. The way he was laying, it made it look like he was awake, but no. I did well. Thank you. Look, this routing code is... I'm glad I have it, because it's a super useful system for the file system. But the second I have to look at it, it's so weird. Right, because the fact that I can do inside of a file system, a virtual file system, the same thing that you can do in like an API endpoint, really useful. Really useful. But that's not happening. So, celebrating 1 year modiversary too. Interesting. Actually, it's... Yeah, you've been mod since day 1, or day 2, technically, because I did a test stream. But, what's weird is that I haven't been affiliate since day 1. So why am I celebrating my affiliate anniversary? Even though that was, I think, a week after I started streaming. It's still pretty close together, but it's not accurate. So, very weird. It's an anniversary for everything on Twitch. Except for when you actually started streaming. It's only when you started making money that they care about you. When they started running ads, that's when you became a streamer. Before that, you were just somebody speaking to the camera for some reason. Why is this guy here? What the fuck are you doing? Or at least I didn't see anything, and nobody mentioned anything about it being my streaming anniversary, even though I'm pretty sure I streamed on that day because I've been streaming a lot lately. So, IDK. Streaming on Twitch has been fun. No regrets for it. Although I have to say, again, YouTube chat gets weird, but stream chat, Twitch chat is pretty pretty chill, usually. So, I like it. Wait, man. Ah, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I don't understand what a path resolution forward and path resolution partial are supposed to mean. I do wish this code was readable. Oh my god. I wish I'd made it readable. This is one of the few places in this entire operating system in which I struggle to understand the code. Still need to make more videos that got me to your YouTube channel. I have a video, though it's different. But I made a video talking about Git. So not really from scratch because I didn't build Git. I'm not crazy, obviously, but about hosting Git remotes without using GitHub. And also I didn't do it like the usual presentation style videos. I made it more like this format. Have you tried turning your brain off and on again? I did, but it never turned on again. So I'd rather not do that. I don't want to leave this for tomorrow, damn it. All right, let me see. If any error messages are showing up whatsoever. All right, we can actually debug a little bit, which I'm being lazy about. Path is print that. Path is empty, that's good. Path resolution allows up to 16 parameters, making this the path. All right, we're good with that. Though I'm pretty sure I'm never cleaning. Oh, no, I think I. All right, then we go through the entries. I'm going to print. There are. Watch it be 0, and the entire time I'm debugging the wrong thing. Please let it be that, because it's going to be very easy to fix. Yes! 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 Holy shit, yes, that is the issue. There are no entries. Why though? Because I'm creating them. They should be. And this... Watch closely what is missing, okay? I'm gonna make the code real fucking big for this one. I'm pissed off at myself right now. Jesus fucking Christ, man. It still doesn't work. Okay. Look. 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 At least... It still failed, okay? But that's a good start. Although I have to see now why it failed. Did I make the code bigger now? Is it better like this if I did? No, it still complains. That's good. So now there are 6 entries. Oh yeah, 6 entries. Yes. There are 6 entries. Okay, so 3 of them are failing because they are actually subdirectories. This one, and this one. That makes sense. They should actually not show in the thing. However, the other 3 should show. They're not. Why not? Because not this condition. Should be just this one. Ridiculous bug I just dealt with right now. I'm still thinking about that. It's not even... That's annoying as hell, man. Jesus Christ. Second time, by the way. Second time that something fails because I never call it. Ah, beautiful. Anyway, now we are using just a default implementation of these functions, and nothing is happening. Path is blank. There are 6 entries. Are you finding any of them? You should be, right? Three should fail, but 3 should succeed. Found entry, found entry, found entry. Why am I not seeing them? Slice. Let me see. Alright, so 3 of them fail because they have a subdirectory. Got it. No problem. Okay, so the way that this works, kind of, is that I am looking into a subdirectory like subdir slash file slash hello, and there's an entry that is file, right? So these two don't match, so just ignore it. But no, rather, I am looking into the root directory, right? And I find this thing, which I find the first entry is subdir, but then there's more stuff after that. There's this extra stuff after that, which means, because there's a slash there, this is inside of a subdirectory. We're trying to list the root, so we don't include this entry. If instead we were trying to list the subdirectory, then any other subdirectories will not match. This will not match, but this one will, and then it will be like, okay, there's something called file, but guess what? It also has something internally called hello. So again, we ignore it. So you need to have an entry that is just subdir file for it to be found. But it does say there are 3 entries that it found. But it's still not working. Got entry, okay. But then it never says processing entry. So we're out of space? How can we possibly be out of space? Unless the current offset is set to something that it shouldn't. There are 6 entries, 3 of them are valid, that's correct. We want help, we want file, we want edit. But we don't want hello or world or test. So we're good with that. But then we're not using the custom read tier, we're using this one. And we're somehow still not reading any values or something. This condition is not met, which means out offset has a value and its value is less than or equal to the current offset. But the current offset is what exactly? Uninitialized. So that shouldn't mean anything, but it is uninitialized. So maybe for Linux that's going to be a problem, but not really here. There is, by the way, this change that I'm still not sure I actually need. I don't need it, no. That's good. Let's put this back as it was. And I did this wrong. Alright, so we're starting to get to code being closer to what it used to be. It's always welcome. So we're moving down the chain on debugging, and eventually we'll get to the bottom of it. Alright, so let me see this. Got F's entry, while offset is 0 and current offset is 0. So got entry, while offset is 0 and current offset is 0, that tells me you should be going into this if statement, shouldn't you? Because this condition is true, less than or equal to. Am I smoking crazy pills suddenly? Smoking crazy pills. Well, that's definitely a way to go crazy, I think. If you're smoking pills, you're probably already crazy. If out offset's value is less than or equal to current offset, then go inside this thing. And it is, because we are... It's gotta be. The only thing I can think of is that Somehow printing this thing is messing up the print? No. Okay, genuinely, am I going crazy? If it says here that offset is 0 and current offset is 0, this condition is true. So we should go inside of this if and print this thing or this thing. I'm gonna do a clean because I have no idea what's happening. No. Okay, what is happening? This is crazy. Am I printing them correctly? Got an entry while the offset is... Is this condition not true? Is there any way that this condition can fail if I've already checked it? I've never encountered something like this before. Out offset is not null. If it was, this condition would be met. Operator precedence? I hope you're right, because that's the only logical explanation. I think it has to be. No. I've already checked that out offset is not null, but if it was, this condition would still be met. I'm going crazy here. This is actually insane. What the hell is happening? Early calls when the entries are routed. Yeah, they are. These are calls that are happening. Like, literally, what? No out offset? We don't even have to look at this condition. The print alone makes no sense. It tells me that, well, offset is this and current offset is this, and then I check if they're the same, less than or equal. And the offset is 0, the current offset is 0, and then they're not equal. How is 0 not 0? I'm definitely smoking crazy pills here. What? What? the out offset is this number, which I am... Okay, I'm glad that's solved. That mystery is solved. Now, who the fuck set it to that? The only place where this value is set, I'm pretty sure, is actually inside of this function, which never gets called. Hmm. The actual file browser's implementation of it, maybe. There's some garbage going on here, and I mean that in more ways than one. What's the name of the syscall for this, by the way? It's, oh, it's traverse directory. That's the one that's doing the call. Traverse directory. It's initialized to 0. This is such a weird bug. That is calling dir list, which is not this function, by the way. But then we must be receiving its contents. We must be receiving some garbage from the file system and user space thingy. Serialize offset. Okay, let's see here. It's the size of a file offset pointer. So the offset is being passed. Look, I kinda get it. Kinda get it. Most likely. Alright, let me see what it is here. I need to trace it back through several layers, actually. It is this pointer, as it exists within the calling program. We're going to then let me see something real quick. The only thing that I can think of that is different in this one is that the process providing the information is the same process requesting the information, so I'm doing something wrong there. Now I'm definitely missing some information as well. I think that condition is okay, but I just don't have to run it every time. Only when I do jobs to buffers. Okay, so these I'm not filling in. So yeah, I do need that, like it was. Bring it back. Hello, Justice. Welcome. Dealing with a very weird bug right now, but I think I figured out what's making it happen, so... Oh my god. Oh, this code is starting to hurt. I'm not even sure what I'm working on anymore, to be completely honest. I was adding menus to Windows and now I'm deep in a file system. Okay, let me try one thing, which is ignore that whole thing. Alright, let's ignore that. And God, I kinda wanna leave the whole thing for tomorrow, to be honest, because it's been intense. But okay, I might wanna do that. I might wanna do that, but not a small to do, just yeah, it's a big to do actually. Alright, I might as well do that. What I wanted to see is, can this be done in other processes that aren't accessing their own file system? Will it work there? I think the answer is yes, probably. But either way, it's probably best to fix this first. And we just got a raid, so... Alright, hello Infinite Coder, welcome. Dealing with some weird bugs today, so...
Shoutout Infinite Coder 01.
Let me see. Back to the job manager real quick. Okay. Now, when we get an offset, the value of that offset is 0. I want to make sure that it is 0. And then the size of a file offset pointer, because that's what you're copying the pointer. Even though the size of a file offset is also 8, so it doesn't change anything. You don't even copy it, you copy on end. Although you should copy on both sides. Let me see if this fixes it, I don't know. Do I know what just happened? No. Do I care what just happened? Fuck no. Couldn't care less. What is LLMS? I don't know what that is. So I definitely don't use it. I kinda understand what happened, and I think like, yeah, okay, it works. Kinda. Sure. Yeah. It's a DAW? No, I've never used that. Speaking of which, this is a completely different issue. Hmm. Okay. File is still crashing. Hmm. Large language models. No, I've never used that. I mean, I don't use that. That was therapeutic. I'm so lost right now. I need to get back to it. Okay, hold on. Let's get back on track. All right. So I do believe now it's working kind of, kind of. One thing that isn't working is opening this directory. That's not working. And edit is also not considered to be a directory, it is considered to be a file, so that also won't work. Pretty sure. But hey, at least I have this. So yes, it crashes, and I don't understand why. But now this is valid. Thank God. Jesus, that was horrible. Um, wow. Anyway, it does find kind of one entry. No, two entries. And it is processing both. though it then crashes. I don't really know where it crashes. It's here somewhere. A little surprising is that I don't have a crash log anywhere. The allocator is crashing. What? Phew. That's not good. Although I do wonder if it has to do with you. Or something like that. Kind of. Because now it didn't crash anymore. Yeah. Though it doesn't work properly. Okay, this crashes. Okay, look, that's something. That's a decent amount of progress. That I think I'm ready to leave for now. Because that last bug got me tired. That's the main reason. That was a ridiculous bug I didn't want to deal with. And yet I ended up figuring out the solution to it. Okay. That's good enough for now, I think. That was something else. This is still here, by the way. Even though Z is not showing it. Z has issues. What else is new? Anyway. Yeah, so I have the kind of basics to set up this using this system and this system, which, by the way, I would also put inside of a helper that helps me just very quickly just be like, define what my menu looks like with just entries, nothing else. Maybe even a little bit of C macros to do a little bit of declarative would be nice, right? To be able to do something like menu, file, you open it, item, hello, points you to function. Next item, world. So it would be nice to do that. Shouldn't be difficult at all, actually. I was thinking, right? The way that I would do that, the way that I would make that work, right, is that this thing goes into the menu macro, right? So I do menu, file, and then in here, some action, which allows me to register more things like submenu or item. Hello. But this macro, this macro needs to resolve to file/hello, not to just hello. But the interesting thing about that is that C can allow me to do this. If I just take this string and this string, because C has a little bit of a weird thing in which a string can be put together like this. This is a valid single C string that looks exactly the same as it did before. You can separate it, make it like that. How very lispy, by the way, of C to do this. Because this is something that you would do in Lisp to make your strings a little bit more readable. The fact that you can do that in C as well, very interesting. Let me make sure that it works like I expect it to first off, right? So if I do that, it should still show as file. It does. Okay. Works exactly as I expected. Very interesting. So thanks to that, I will be able to do macros to make this whole thing declarative once I get to the helper part of it. But right now we're just designing the actual structure of it. But I'm honestly done for today. That was way too much. That was way too much. Would you say you would have a lot of to do a lot of talking to do well as a streamer? Yeah, I find that probably it's good to, keep attention to a certain extent. So, yeah. It's also why I don't enjoy debugging on stream too much because, debugging looks like this. So, explaining and debugging at the same time for me is very hard. So, I would say yeah. Though not necessarily. Shit, you can do no commentary video game playthroughs. I'm sure you can do no commentary streaming coding sessions. That's probably a thing that you can do. But I'm not sure. Yeah, he's having a very nice nap to relax from his other nap that he had before. To relax from the other nap that he had before. I gave him a little bit of cheese before that though. So, yeah, he's digesting that. He's digesting that. Sorry about that. I still am thinking about that bug in which this value is 0, this value is 0. Are they the same? No. I get why, because the first 32 bits were not the same, the next 32 were, but it's really funny. Makes you question your sanity, really. Let him have another nap? Of course, yes. God damn it, you woke him up. Chat, you woke him up. You're being too loud. Never mind, he's going back to sleep. Debug print itself was buggy, yes. Not buggy. Not buggy. I was using it wrong. That is the correct way that it should work. Ish. Ish. That's the libc way that it works. When somebody contributed to make print work like libc's print, I immediately changed some stuff. This probably should have been something I changed. LLX is stupid. Yeah. Anyway. Alright. I am done for now. There may still be some bugs happening with the job manager, and most importantly, some unimplemented functions for reading and writing files, which I never realized. That is so horrible, by the way, that those functions are not implemented. But it is what it is. So, I'm going to see if I'm able to implement them. And I'm going to tomorrow continue working on this thing. Right, so not even here necessarily. We're going to see if the, oh, by the way, this crashes. Different story. Different story. But I'm going to see if the desktop environment can pick this up. That's the thing that I'm most interested in. Not so much that this process can access it. So, yeah, kind of need that. Although, of course, if this process cannot access it, there's still a problem. But yeah. Anyway, so for tomorrow, I have to implement a bunch of file system functions that I thought were already implemented, and that really sucks. Oh my god. Oh my god. Anyway. All right, everybody. That's gonna be enough for now. Yeah, so more menu stuff tomorrow. Window resizing, I'll add that when I need it. I technically have enough. I have everything that I need to do it. So, we're good. Let me see if there's someone that I... not really. All right, hold on, everybody. I'm preparing a raid. You know what? I haven't seen Just Jane in a while, so let me do that. All right, everybody. Stream at the same time tomorrow. I'm just padding till we get the raid ready. Just wait a goddamn second. Don't leave, don't leave, don't leave. And bye.